Bueno, la que se ha visto la serie del reality sobre los asiáticos poderosos, ricos y famosos en Nueva York es Laura. Laura, ¿quién es su invitado? Pero antes cuéntenos qué es lo que la tiene hipnotizada de esa serie.
Bueno, primero, Julio, es la vida extravagante que se dan los personajes de Bling Empire. Es un fenómeno en Singapur y Hong Kong. Es el reality más visto en estas dos ciudades, y pues en Colombia se ha vuelto muy famoso y también aquí en Estados Unidos. Y pues Abbie es la estrella del programa de Netflix Bling Empire New York y editor general de A Magazine Curated By. Y lo que me tiene pues más impresionada es precisamente esa vida extravagante que se dan estos asiáticos ricos y poderosos en Nueva York. Y pues le pido el favor a Grace y a Ana que saluden a Blake y que le den la bienvenida en Colombia y Latinoamérica.
Good morning, Blake. Thank you very much for your time today at W Radio.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Julio and Ana.
Pues nada, ahí dice que muchas gracias por tenerlos aquí en el programa.
Bueno, quería preguntarle, Ana, primero, ¿cómo llega él a Bling Empire y a estar pues codeándose con las personas más ricas de Nueva York?
We wonder, Blake, how did you end up being part of Bling Empire and, being, side by side with the richest Asians in New York?
Well, it's quite funny. I am a fashion editor, so I am, as you said in your introduction, I'm an A Magazine Curator, the editor-at-large. And I was quite good friends with Tina Leung, who at the time was already approached by Netflix, and she was also friends with Dorothy. And so because Dorothy, who is also in the cast, Dorothy Wong, she was a part of Bling LA's cast, we kind of had a very organic group of friends that were brought together to be on the show.
Pues nos dice que es bastante curioso, él es un editor de moda y pues por amigos en común que están en la industria y también por Dorothy, que hace parte del elenco, consiguieron ese grupo de amigos para conformar lo que es esta serie tan exitosa.
Gracias, Grace. Y Ana, pregúntele por favor cómo ha sido su experiencia como queer. Él mismo en los capítulos se define como queer en la serie y quería saber qué le aporta esto a la serie y a la diversidad que se vive en ella.
Speaking about how has been your experience being queer, you have identified yourself as queer several times in the series, and what does this add to the reality?
Well, I think for me, my sexual identity is not so intrinsic to who I am as a person, but it just happens to be a part of who I am, if you understand. I think, for a Chinese, Canadian, Chinese, Scottish person, sexuality is not necessarily spoken all that much about in the home. And, I grew up in a pretty traditional family, and it was pretty important to me to be able to share my ideas. And I think a lot of Latino families must be the same, growing up in traditional families. And so it was very important to me to be able to share my story, which was a story of acceptance, of a story with no struggle, a story with just allowing us to be who we are. And I'm really happy that in the final edit, because we don't see the edit until it comes out with everyone else, that the story was really authentic to who I am, and I'm really proud that I've been able to actually touch a lot of people around the world, and people have been very, very generous with saying how much my story, my approach to my life and queerness really resonates with them.
Él cree que su identidad sexual no lo define como persona, es parte, por supuesto, de lo que es, y para un chino canadiense la sexualidad no se habla mucho en casa. Él creció en una familia bastante tradicional, entonces no se compartían mucho esas ideas dentro de su casa. Se imagina que en las familias latinas es igual, pero nos dice que es muy importante compartir eso en la historia por la parte de la aceptación, permitir enviar el mensaje de que las personas tengan esa aceptación para ser felices. Y en la edición final, pues él no lo pudo ver sino hasta que el show estuviera listo, y está contento con el resultado porque es una historia auténtica de lo que es y está orgulloso de tocar al mundo contando esa historia.
Ana, yo quisiera preguntarle qué es lo más extravagante que ha visto de la vida que llevan sus compañeros de la serie.
I wanted to ask you, what's been the most extravagant thing you've seen, during this series? What has been the most extravagant thing you have seen your fellow members in the reality show do?
I mean, I guess the most extravagant thing would be our clothing. To have friends who are couture clients, who are incredible archivists of fashion. Lynn Donna's on the show, and she's an incredible jewelry designer. She's designed jewelry for Rihanna, Madonna, Beyonce, some of the most, famous celebrities in the world. And she is incredible and fabulous. And, to the premiere last week, she wore this beautiful vintage Versace Atelier Versace haute couture dress, and she wears, vintage Alexander McQueen, and Tina, even in one moment in the show, she wears this gorgeous Victor and Rolf coat to this fabulous party. And so I think that's, for me, it's really fun to be able to see couture pieces really come to life. It's oftentimes as a fashion editor, you see these on the runway, and you don't often see people wear them afterwards. So it's fabulous to have friends who participate that and bring fashion to real life.
Ana, ayúdeme por favor a preguntarle, en la serie de Netflix...
Déjeme traducir antes de su pregunta.
Ay, perdón.
Pero nos responde a eso que la ropa es bastante extravagante, la que se usa, porque pues él está acostumbrado a ver todas esas piezas de moda en las pasarelas, pero no está acostumbrado a verla en personas normal, y nos dice que, por ejemplo, Lin Pan, una de sus compañeras, pues usa unos atuendos absolutamente maravillosos. Por ejemplo, usó en la premiere un vestido Versace absolutamente espectacular, que es una pieza que uno ve en la pasarela, pero pues que no se imagina verlo en una persona poniéndoselo. Entonces están todas esas personas que tienen mucho que ver con la industria de la moda, que visten a las celebridades y a las personas más famosas del mundo. Entonces es increíble verlo.
Ana, quiero que me ayude por favor a preguntarle, en todo pues sus antecedentes y en todos sus orígenes asiáticos y también escoceses, ¿cómo le han ayudado en la serie y esto cómo le ha aportado a su vida también?
Speaking about your background, the different backgrounds that you have from your ancestors, how has this helped, your character in this series and your life in general?
Well, I think I was brought up in a very traditional family, as I said. I grew up with a lot of traditions in terms of like Chinese values, the ways that we pray. I think in the series you see me, I lost my father, it'll be about 2 years ago now. But I do really, in my real life, pray to my ancestors and give offerings to my ancestors. So there is a scene where I'm on the rooftop of, and I call my mom and I say, I love her and I miss my dad, and I burn some offerings to my dad, and these are joss paper offerings. They're supposed to represent money and prayers that we send into the afterlife, so that people in the afterlife can spend their money and buy their cars and buy their food and buy their clothing, whatever they want to there. So that kind of tradition is something I really wanted to share with other people through the show. And yeah, as I said, it's a real thing, and there were real tears, and I'm still, of course, going through my grief, and I still send offerings as much as I can. And yeah, I think that tradition is incredible value to all of us. I think growing up with ancestors and growing up with families that believe in certain things, I think that's the way that we can hold on to them and also hold on to our own culture.
Nos cuenta ahí que creció con una familia tradicional y obviamente él quiere ser fiel a sus tradiciones, a sus valores. Él también es muy religioso. Nos dice que en la serie se puede ver eso representado. Él perdió a su padre hace 2 años y pues en la vida real ahí nos dice que también se ve representado en la serie cómo reza a sus ancestros. Eso hace parte de sus creencias, e incluso se ve una escena también de la serie en el techo, cómo llama a la mamá y le dice que extraña a su papá, y dan todas estas ofrendas para sus ancestros, y eso hace parte de su tradición de compartir con los otros, y se puede ver muy bien en este show. Aunque aún sigue con el duelo con su padre, pues esta tradición la valora mucho.
Ana, a mí estos realities siempre me generan dudas porque yo no sé qué tanto es actuado, qué tan espontáneo es. Por favor, pregúntele a nuestro invitado si las escenas se planean, si se repiten o todo lo que vemos en este reality es de verdad.
You know, we always wonder about reality shows. How much of it is it really happening and how much of it is it really staged? So we wonder in this series, how much of it is really happening and how much is just staged?
You know, 100% of it is happening. It's funny. Of course, it's edited, and of course, things that happen on the show and the way it comes across in the edit may not be the exact way it was in person, and there is a little bit of differences. And you know, in one scene with me and Jet and Lynn, it definitely comes a lot where they're asking about my sexuality. Comes a lot, although it's a lot harsher than it did in person. But we all understand that this is an entertaining show. This is supposed to be an escapist show. It's supposed to be comedy. And so, you know, we know what we're signing up for. But generally, everything everything that happens is quote unquote real. We do spend quite a lot of time with our producers talking to them about what's happening in our lives and how we can intersect with the other people on the show. I mean, what's really amazing is that we actually all are friends. So maybe that's what's different than a lot of other reality shows, is that we hang out outside of filming. We text each other outside of filming. And so in many ways, I think that people, when they watch the show, can see that we actually do get along. And we fight as normal friends would too.
Pues nos dice que 100% es real, obviamente hay edición, hace parte de un show, hay algunas exageraciones y aspectos muy pequeños que cambian con la edición, pero entienden que es un show de entretenimiento, es una comedia, ellos saben en lo que están, en lo que se metieron, y nos cuenta que pues lo que pasa ahí pasa realmente en la vida real. Los productores hablan mucho con ellos, ellos les cuentan lo que pasa con sus vidas, les comentan con quién pueden interactuar o con quién interactúan, entonces todos son amigos, ellos sí hablan con mensajes de texto por fuera de este show, entonces eso se puede ver representado de que en realidad sí son amigos.
De los oyentes que en este reality hay personajes como Steven Hung, que es uno de los hombres más poderosos de Hong Kong, o Lin Bang, que es diseñadora de joyas de estrellas como Rihanna, Madonna, Beyoncé. Quería preguntarle a Blake, ¿por qué es tan importante, o bueno, por qué se han vuelto tan importantes, tan famosos y están tan de moda la cultura asiática en estos realities de Netflix?
We wonder, I mean, because of the type of profiles we're seeing on this reality, and in general, the type of content that we are getting from Asia, why do you believe that this reality shows, the serious TVs coming from Asia have gained so much popularity in Netflix?
Well, I think that what's really amazing over the last few years, I mean, you look at the popularity of Squid Games coming out of Korea and so many other K-dramas that are coming out of Korea, or even C-dramas out of China, is that, you know, we all love and speak the same language when it comes to stories. And so I think that, you know, I was on a television show, which is also on Netflix, called Meteor Garden, which did incredibly well all over Latin America. I mean, we had huge viewership in Chile and Argentina and Mexico. And it's really amazing, actually, to and maybe they're listening now, to, you know, for them to have followed me from that show to a reality show. I think that everyone really kind of can see themselves in other people's lives, even if we don't look the same. And I think in terms of the Asian shows, I think right now, in particular in the States and in the West, there is less representation for Asian people within media. So what's so important about Bling and why I really wanted to be a part of it is that we can be a part of a cultural movement that I think is really important to show that, again, we may have different cultures, we may have different traditions, we may look different, but in the end, we all are the same people. We all want love, we all have family, we all have problems, we all have drama. Maybe that answers your question, I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Sure. Well, Blake, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on our show.
Well, thank you so much. Gracias.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bueno, nos dice que en los últimos años le ha ido muy bien a estas series asiáticas. Por ejemplo, nos pone el ejemplo de Squid Games, que es coreana. Todos la amaron, a pesar de que no se hable la misma lengua, porque cuentan la historia y las personas se ven reflejadas en esas historias, así sean distintas. Nos dice que, por ejemplo, participó en otro show que le fue muy bien en Latinoamérica, en Netflix, en Chile, en Argentina, en México, fue un exitoso. Entonces, a lo mejor esas personas que lo vieron en esa serie lo siguen y empezaron a ver esta serie también, que es muy importante para él porque representa esa cultura asiática que a lo mejor no se ve representada en otros medios.